Tom, tell us more about, who are and what do you do, as French Plans?
Okay, so French Plans is an architecture and planning consultancy. We are based in France, obviously, and we cover the whole of the country. Not to say that how's it started. Arthur Cutler, my ex-business partner, he's now retired, luckily for him, set up the business 25 years ago up in Brittany. He started it, he was a builder actually to start off with, and folks kept asking him to do planning applications for the work that he was being asked to do, and so he thought he fancied getting off the roof and getting behind a desk, and so that's kind of how it started. And so it grew out from Brittany. He focused on Brittany to start with, and then focused on the northwest of France, and then expanded into the rest of France, and now we cover the whole of the country. We have a few locations. There's me. I tend to work in the southwest, as that's where I'm based. There's another colleague of mine, or co-director of mine, Mike, who's based down in the southeast, so he covers off work in the southeast. We've got a colleague up in Brittany as well, and then another one in the centre, kind of in the Creuse area, who deals with those kind of projects. But it depends who's available, depends on who's working and what the workload is as to who takes on projects. We don't have a geographic limit on who takes on the work, nor do we have a geographic limit on where projects are. It just tends to be that we have projects down the west side, west half of France, and along the southern half. Our client base is generally Anglophone, folks from the UK or from America or Australia, Canada, that kind of area. We also get clients whose first language might not be English but isn't French either. So we work with Dutch clients and Belgian clients, those kind of folks as well, who are looking at developing or changing or amending, altering buildings in France. And again, it's a fascinating area or industry to work in. It's fascinating to work with such a diverse mix of folks, all with different ideas and different kind of cultural nuance to attach to the buildings and to the properties they're trying to develop. So it's fascinating, but ostensibly I am an architect, so it's architecture as the focus. You can't kind of do architecture in France without there being a big planning element to it, and so we get involved in lots of planning questions as well. So there's quite a lot of administration that we do, but we try to cover off both of those fields with the team we have.
What would be maybe sort of, some of the most common things you get involved with?
So I guess the big one is barn conversion, conversion of buildings, whether that be barns or others. We get a lot of those. We work with folks who want to extend properties quite a lot. We get asked about pool applications. Lots of people who want to install pools. We do a fair few of those. More and more we're getting involved with people who are converting larger buildings, so be that chateaus or manoirs, into commercial ventures. So whether that be conference centres, we've done a few of those, or retreat centres or that kind of thing. But we don't have a limit on the size of project we do at either end of the spectrum. So we don't necessarily have a limit on the upper end, neither we do have a limit on the lower end. We do a lot of very simple little applications for Veluxes, change of windows, change of roof materials, perhaps garden sheds, that kind of thing. That's kind of our run-of-the-mill bread and butter stuff. We do a fair few of those, but yeah, generally speaking, it's the classic, barn conversion, extension, renovation project that would be our main focus. Yeah.
And a lot of people, when they talk about an architect, they suddenly think telephone numbers and I couldn't even get in touch with them. But your approach is slightly different to people in the starting stages.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd much rather have a free conversation with someone initially to answer some questions to enable them to make a decision about whether they want to go ahead with a project, or even if their project might be feasible or not, than people come to me kind of too late in the process, having been worried that it was going to cost them a lot just to have a conversation, and it end up costing them more because we have to dig them out of a hole which perhaps they unintentionally got themselves into by not asking the right questions up front. I'd rather spend 15 minutes of my time doing a bit of research into the regulations, and then talk to someone from a point of strength in terms of the knowledge I then have about their proposal for free, without there being any issue of this conversation's gone over 30 minutes, are you going to start charging me, than someone be afraid to contact us. I'd rather that, having a conversation and them going to use another architect, absolutely fine. If it means that I've enabled them to fulfill their dream or move on with their project, that's great. That's what we want to do at the end of the day.
In terms of your charges, though, it's very straightforward, isn't it?
Yeah, we're very open and honest about our fees. All our fees are highlighted on our website. We work in kind of brackets of fees, depending on the complexity of the project. Obviously, if the project is particularly complicated, we may be beyond our bracketed kind of fee schedule. But generally speaking, usually our projects are within the fees we advertise, and we try to be as honest as we can be about how much we charge. So that someone who is thinking about using us can come to us, having an idea about how much they need to budget for our services. Because if you have a finite amount of money and you know how much we charge, you then know how much you have for the project, and it just means we can have a sensible conversation about the project without there being this kind of hidden concern that our fees are going to mean that they can't have the new kitchen, for instance. It's that kind of thing. So if we're honest up front, we charge a lump sum. What we say we're going to charge you, we will charge you. There are no hidden costs. Everyone can move on once they have the approval to finalising and finishing the project.
Talk to us just a little bit more about your client base. Who they are and where they come from.
Completely diverse, which is fantastic for me because I get to talk to people from all over the world. Historically, it's always been a kind of a UK-centred client base. Folks coming over from the UK to buy either a second home or to move. Over the last, I guess, 5 years or so, it's started to shift a bit towards a more American client base, but we still get clients from Australia. We have Belgian clients, Dutch clients, Italian clients sometimes, one or two French clients, not many, but one or two, because we do advertise our services as English speaking. We are the English kind of speaking link between clients who perhaps don't speak perfect French and the French authorities. So French clients come to us, but not because of the English language issue, but generally anyone who doesn't have a strong language skill, let's say, in French, comes to us to enable them to deliver to achieve their projects, because we act as the link, I guess. We're the enabler of their life in France, and it's one of those things we really like to do. And it's such a diverse client base. The number of people from every walk of life who wants to buy in France is fantastic and fascinating.
In terms of people looking to buy, where do you really come in with people? Do you come in when they bought or before? What does it look like?
I would love to come in with people before they've even started looking at houses, if I'm honest, although that's difficult because once they see a house, they get an idea of what they want to do to it. But at that point is perfect. So if they've seen a property, perhaps even online, so if you've seen it online, gone, oh, that fits the bill, both budget and location, but it doesn't quite work for whatever reason, that's the point I want you to contact me to say, let's have a chat. Let's see if the building is really is the feasibility of your project going to work? Is the building going to work for you? Because if someone has purchased the property, or they have got a long way down the line and become very emotionally invested in it, it becomes quite tricky if the project isn't feasible. And I have to deliver bad news and say, actually, regulations mean you can't do it, or the building itself means you can't do it, or the Architectes Bâtiments de France are going to apply a whole load of criteria to this, which means it's going to cost a lot to do. That becomes difficult. It's not a pleasant conversation for me to have. So it's self-preservation comes into it a little bit. I'd like to come have conversations with folks very early so that we can guide them and say, here's the questions you really need to be asking of the seller. Here's the information we can provide you. Let's go from here. Not to say we can't do it if people have purchased already. We have lots of clients who have owned houses for a long time who come to us and say we want to extend or we want to do this, that and the other. It's just if someone is buying with an intention to develop, So if you're looking at barn conversion, want a barn conversion, speaking to us really early about the potential of that barn conversion is really good for me, makes my life easier, but hopefully makes their life easier too.
And then just finally, in terms of that, people looking to buy something in France and things, is it fairly standard in terms of planning, or is it much more localised?
It's pretty localised. There is a very, very broad set of national regulations, which some communes rely on. Some communes haven't written local plans yet. There is a drive for more and more and more communes to write their own local policies, and therefore understanding those local policies and how they apply to the property you're looking at can affect what you can and can't do to it. So it's important to understand what those regs are, where the building sits in relation to the zoning, how it is, if it's affected by heritage protections, if it's affected by flood risk protections, or if you're talking about alpine properties, whether there's an avalanche risk, all those kind of things which come into it, which might not be obvious on the face of it when you're first looking at things. But all those things kind of come together to form a whole picture of what is possible. And our job is to take the brief we have from our client, understand all those constraints, and come up with a solution that fits within them all, essentially. But until you understand all those things, you can't really come up with a solution. But so understanding how the property sits in a planning environment really early, allows us to do some early work to say that, okay, well, there's going to have to be a bit of give and take here. You're going to have to give up this bit, but we can generally get, we might be able to get 90% of the project through, and here's a really good solution for it, which won't cause a huge amount of grief as we go through the application process.